We keep getting richer, but we can't get richer on the cover of the Rolling Stone.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Umpteenth Time Hearing. I'm Bill, once again, your host, bringing you another song from the past. For those of you who might be new to the channel, the whole concept between this program, Umpteenth Time Hearing, is to take these first-time hearing reaction videos that are available out there on YouTube. It's what sort of gave me the idea for this program, of seeing some of those. Only what I'm trying to do is flip that idea on its head and find obscure songs, generally obscure songs, and generally from the 80s, a point I'll be getting to in a minute, and just putting them out there, start to finish, for folks to hear possibly for the first time, their first time hearing, which I don't get to see. So it's an interesting little experiment that I'm just trying out to see what's gonna happen if it takes off. Now, today, I'm actually going back a lot further than the 80s. I've got a song from 1982 from Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show, a classic of theirs called Cover of the Rolling Stone. And this 1972 song, which was actually quite a big hit for them, it reached, I believe it was a number 6 on the Billboard Top 40. They had a couple of like 4 number 6 songs and a couple of number 5s. They never hit that number 1 spot. And a smattering of other, some in the top 40, some didn't make it that far. Over the course of quite a number of years, actually, they were active with their original, or more or less original lineup until the early 80s. But what ties this together with the type of music that I've generally been playing is this interesting theory that I picked up a while back. I've seen a couple spots, just read about it as I was reading through whatever it was I was reading through. I have not fact-checked this, but it does make a lot of sense to me. And it sort of explains why so much of the music I'm playing on the show is from the 80s. It goes like this. When we're very young, we're listening, of course, to kids' music, Disney tunes and whatnot. But as we start listening to pop music, what we're introduced to is the music of our parents' generation. And that's what we grow up on listening to up until a certain point, 12, 14, maybe somewhere in there, start to discover our own generation's music and start to develop our own taste and make that break from our parents' generation of music to our own and start exploring musically what's out there that's new and different. And during our teens and into 20s generally, we have the free time on our hands to be seeking out and finding new music and listening to it often over and over again, as we do at that age often, and are able to pick up all this music along that time in our lives. And then at some point, often in the 20s, jobs, family, volunteering, whatever else becomes a priority in life. And we stop exploring new music quite so much. Now, this isn't true for everyone, of course. There's plenty of people, DJs and people in the industry and people who just are inclined to check out more music, who stay on top of this. But for a lot of us, myself included, it just doesn't happen. I had, as I've mentioned, all the exposure to that music when I was a volunteer, a DJ in college, and didn't have that after I graduated. I've also been generally much more interested in film than music, just because, as I've also mentioned, I don't have that much musical talent, like none. So that's why my music comes from that period. That the other last part of that theory is that, so for a lot of folks to stop listening to that new music as they get older, and when we do have time to just sit down and listen to music, we tend to fall back on that music from the period when we were discovering music of our own. And it's just how these things happen for a lot of folks. And so, having graduated high school in 85 and college in 89, 80s, that's where a lot of my music lies. And so that's the reason that so much of the music I play is from the 1980s, and it's also the reason why today we are going back to 1972. Because you see, I still remember, my daughter is now 27, and I remember the very last piece of my generation music that I gave to her, which was Cyndi Lauper's Greatest Hits. And I stand by that choice. Pretty good one, I say. But I still also remember the last piece of my parents' generation's music that my father gave to me. And in case you haven't guessed, yes, Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show came in the form of their Greatest Hits album. The only 2 songs that really stuck out for me were Rollin' the Roadie and Gertrude the Groupie, and of course, Cover of the Rolling Stone. This being much more a classic of theirs, it's the one I'm going with. For those of you who might need it, he's pretty clear in his singing, so you may not, but the lyrics are, as always, posted in the top pinned comment below. As is The website for the Dr. Hook Revised or Revisited, I believe, that is still going on. They haven't toured in a couple of years at least, and there's some information that's not real updated there, but it's someplace to keep an eye out if you like the sound and you think you might have a chance to check them out. And I've also, what may seem bizarre, included the webpage for the late Shel Silverstein. The reason for that is that the band's second album, Sloppy Seconds, from which comes cover of the Rolling Stone, all of the songs in that album were written by Shel Silverstein, the children's author who wrote The Giving Tree and that collection of poems, Where the Sidewalk Ends. So there's not too much else for information on this program, so I thought I'd just give those couple of websites for you to check out. And while you're down looking at those top pinned comments for the lyrics, if you do that, don't forget while you're there to click on that subscribe button. There's the notifications bell if you want to hear about upcoming programs. Appreciate all the likes. And feel free to comment on the music or the program in those comments below. But for now, though, let's get right into it. This is Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show with cover of the Rolling Stone. Enjoy.
No, give it back to the guy. We're the big rock singers, we got golden fingers, and we're loved everywhere we go. We sing about beauty and we sing about truth for $10,000 a show. We take all kind of pills and give us all kind of thrills, but the thrill we've never known is the thrill that'll get you when you get your picture on the cover of the Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone. Won't you see my picture on the cover of the Stone? About that cotton for my mother. Won't you see my smiling face on the cover of the Rolling Stone? Yeah. That thing back here. I got a freaky old lady named a Cocaine Katie who embroiders on my jeans. I got my poor old gray-haired daddy driving my limousine. Now it's all designed to blow our minds, but the minds won't really be blown. Like the floor that'll get you when you get your picture on the cover of the Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone. Won't you see my picture on the cover of the Stone? Teenage blue-eyed girls who do anything we say. We got a genuine Indian guru teaching us a better way. We got all the friends money can buy, so we never have to be alone. And we keep getting richer, but we can't get a picture on the cover of the Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone. Wanna see my picture on the cover of the Stone?
there you have it, folks. Some old school rock and roll from some old school rock and rollers. In case you couldn't tell from the live show there, this is a group that likes to live and party like rock stars did back in the 70s. You know, make a whole bunch of money doing a show and blow it all that night. They generally just march to their own rhythm. They had the funky offbeat stuff like you heard just then with Cover of the Rolling Stone where they're kind of goofing around. You can hear a lot more too on Rollin' the Roadie and Gertrude the Groupie. But then, and subsequently, they had some soft rock hits. I remember in middle school hearing When You're in Love with a Beautiful Woman on the radio and thinking, but you know, I was in middle school. So they've had a lot of stuff. Not active very much anymore, but as I said, there is a Dr. Hook Revisited that's still on tour. You've got that link in the top pinned comment below, along with Shel Silverstein's. And in case any of you are wondering, they did in fact make the cover of the Rolling Stone. About a year after the song came out in March of '73, they were on the cover. Well, 3 of them were on the cover, and they were in caricature. So that's the closest the band made it to the cover of the Rolling Stone. Another interesting little tidbit of trivia, I did the fact check on this after picking up in Wikipedia, because, you know, Wikipedia. But it was tie into Vermont, being born and raised in the state. I always loved that type of trivia. Vermont jam band Fish, in February of 2003, they did a cover of this song at a music festival in Inglewood, California, and they then, as you see, were on the cover of the Rolling Stone in full. Now, the slight difference here is that when Dr. Hook did this song originally, it was released in 1972, and it was like a year later when they made the cover of the Rolling Stone, albeit 3 of them in caricature. When Fish performed that song in February of '03, it was like 3 weeks later that they made the cover of the Rolling Stone. So I don't know for sure, but I'm willing to bet that when they sang that cover in Inglewood, California, they knew they were going to be on the cover, whereas Dr. Hook was just singing it to try and get on the cover, and it worked for him. So anyway, that's the show for today. I just would ask one last question for anyone who wants to pop it in the comments below. If you have a song that reminds you of what was the last piece of music that you got from your parents, you know, if you're old enough to have gotten albums or cassettes from your parents, CDs even, what was the last one that stands out in your mind as being the last gifted piece of music that made you realize, you know what, maybe this isn't quite the kind of thing I want to listen to. Let me go check out this other stuff. So if you know what that is, or if you know, like I said, I remember the one that I gave to my daughter. So whether you got gifted it or were given it, name that music in the comment below. I'd be curious to see what people come up with. For now, though, thanks again for watching. As always, may the best of your past be the worst of your future. Have a great day. Talk to you next time. Bye now.
And Rollin' the Roadie loves Gertrude the Groupie. Gertrude the Groupie loves groups.